Okay, my friends, here it is. The Saturday morning live stream at the Garden Like a Viking headquarters, Zone 5/6. It is a hot and beautiful day today. It is muggy even inside, even with the AC running. So, here we are, guys. Look at this. Look at that. Beautiful Velvet Queen sunflower. There's like 10 of these on each plant. They just keep coming. They just keep coming. So, yes, I highly recommend the Velvet. And it only gets about 5 or 6 feet tall. So, this is my first year growing this one. But, guys, definitely recommend growing it. It only gets about, like I said, 5 feet tall. And it's just covered in these awesome blooms. And they got nice long stems on them. I cut them real short because I wanted to save the other flowers that were forming on them. But highly recommend this. Now, another one I'm growing is the Evening Sunset Mix. But it's like already 10 feet tall. And it's starting to branch. So it hasn't even flowered yet. And then another one is the Mongolian Giant. And it's like 12 feet tall already. Hasn't even begun to flower. Okay? Yeah, sound check. Okay, so we're going to do sound check. Ready? Sunflower. Okay, what did I say? So, guys, we got a lot to talk about today. I got all kinds of, okay, Terry Goody, yes, thank you. Alexander, hello. Muddy Paws, good to see you guys. Heather Fox, Pilar, Sam Patzik, Ray Lavino, yes, Pam from South Africa, Rick, all right, guys, Queen RB, thank you very much. Teats Treats, yes, guys, that brings me to an amazing thing, a gift that I got from Teats Treats. And I mean, I've got a lot of amazing things from you guys in the mail. This one is maybe the most unique. It is a carnivorous plant. And I can already tell I'm going to be super into these things. I've never had one. I have zero experience with them. Look, you see the gnat flying around? There's something about it already that attracts the gnats. And then they just get stuck in these things. And they digest the gnats, I guess. I mean, I have a lot to learn about them, but if you guys have any carnivorous plants like the Venus flytrap or any of the other ones, send them to me, and I will take care of them forever, and I will learn so much more about them. You can guarantee that, because these are super cool. They were a little rough from shipping, but he packaged them expertly, of course, and so very much so looking forward to this experience. And I'm definitely going to get several more different kinds and have a little carnivorous plant stand, little carnivorous plant area. The name, I forget. Teats Treats, can you please give us the name? He said, glad they made it alive. Yeah, they made it definitely alive. I mean, they were packaged really well, really well. So they made it no problem. They were just, in the darkness for a while. And, but now they have seen the light, and I have reverse osmosis water. So that's, I looked it up and everything, and they said reverse osmosis is good enough. Even though it's like 5 parts per million, very, very, very little compared to 300 parts per million, what the tap water would be. So I think that would be just fine. So, Teats, can you give us the name? Oh, Cape Sundew. And the pygmy sundew. Okay, Cape Sundew carnivorous plant. I mean, I can't get over it. I keep looking at it, and I keep looking at how it is. It's just amazing how they evolved in boglands, and they evolved where there's no soil nutrients, and so you can't fertilize them ever. Otherwise, they will die, or they'll stop hunting. Attracting the stuff, and so these things are just incredible. And I just sit there and watch them. They got like a sticky substance on them, and the gnats from the kitchen, because of course there are fruit flies and stuff now because it's tomato season. Yes, look at these big, gigantic, delicious Cherokee purple tomatoes coming in full speed. They also attract the fruit flies, and so these things attract those. It's just crazy how they gravitate towards it. There's some kind of something that it knows how to attract. So, super cool. Cape Sundew. Thanks again. I got another gift that I'm going to speak about here in just a moment, but I want to see what you guys are talking about. Yeah, Pilar says, next week we'll just see Nate's feet sticking out of that plant. Yeah, like Super Mario Brothers or something. Man, look at the gorgeousness in that. I mean, Velvet Queen for the win. I'm going to plant them out front next year. I mean, these are such a unique looking sunflower. So beautiful. And the plant's just covered in them. So, yes. Oh, really? It says when the cape grabs a bug, the leaf rolls it up, digests the bug, then the leaf dies. Oh, I just see them sticking to it. Well, maybe that's what the dead leaves are. Wow. A lot to learn about them. It's going to be super cool. So thanks again. Let me get this tea thing out of the way. Sweeping Page says, wrong channel, but I'm on day 1 of the master cleanse. All right, my friend. Best of luck. You have a wonderful journey ahead of you. So let's see here. Good morning, Nancy DeWalt. Good to see you. Donald Hughes is reporting, says, my white scallop plant's finally making babies after listening to Tom Jones. She's a lady. Nice. Yeah, got it. Tom Jones has got all kinds of good ones for that, doesn't it? So what you came up with though is you cut off a bunch of the, because I know this from the Discord chat, you cut off a bunch of the male flowers and then some of the lower leaves. Is that correct? And that somehow induced it to set female flowers? Because man, if you watch like my bloom fertilizer video, I've got just an overwhelming amount of female flowers. I mean, there's like one on top of each other. I mean, just everywhere, one on top of each other. So many of them that I can't even keep up. I'm at the point now where these patty pan squash are just, you know, I'm kind of over it. I mean, I've had them so much, grilled so much, fried. I'm probably going to make a video about it. I actually am going to do a cooking video because most people don't know how to grow the patty pan, but it's a wonderful, or they don't know how to cook it properly. It's a wonderful gift of summertime though. It is so delicious and it signifies summer. It signifies that peak of summer because it's only here for about 4 weeks, 4 good weeks, maybe 5, where it's really pumping out a lot of patty pans. And so that is like the heart of summer, you know, when you make that memory. And they're super delicious if you make them the right way. Yes. So let's see. Old Kiefer says, so very excited for today's topic. Yes, guys, we are going to get into that once we get situated, once we get in the swing of things. We're going to get into the questions I've been getting so much from you guys, which is awesome. But it has to do with JADAM versus KNF versus what I'm calling now the Viking method. And so what are the differences and what are the pros and cons and when should I use what? And have you abandoned JADAM and is it no longer viable or good? I'm going to answer all that stuff. Okay. I'm going to answer all that. We're just going to have a discussion about it because it's very relevant. Alex Forgay, $10. Thank you, my friend. Says, good morning, Nate. So I'd like to boost up the phosphorus in my compost tea, which I give once a week. Is it okay to also foliar feed with that bloom boosting recipe that you showed us once a week? Okay, so that's actually ideal. So the way I've been doing it for the past couple of years now is to aerated compost tea once a week, which I just have a routine, start brewing it on Sunday, apply it on Monday night. And then about Thursday evening, give or take, Thursday night, apply the bloom boosting, the Baguano, Seabird guano, earthworm casting. That stuff, guys, I mean, is the creme de la creme. It really is. It's more powerful than the banana one. The banana one is wonderful because it's virtually free. So we'll get into the differences between the JADAM and stuff like that and the strengths and weaknesses of the different systems. But yes, it is okay to foliar feed with that bloom boosting recipe once a week. Now, what is it that is making you feel like you need to boost the phosphorus in your compost tea? So if you're using the good quality fish fertilizer, meaning the homemade fish fertilizer, because remember this year I purchased 3 different kinds: Neptune's Harvest, the Alaska Fish, and the there's another one that I purchased, and all of them are inferior. They're okay because they're available. They're okay because they're available. but they're inferior to the stuff we make ourselves. I mean, I can just tell in every way. And I can get into that later, talking about why I think they're inferior, or know that they're inferior. But if you're using that, you're getting quite a bit of phosphorus still. Okay, so you're going to get plenty of that. Now, if you want to, then add some of that high phos seabird guano. The seabird guano is a 011 0. Okay, so that means that it is by weight a huge amount of phosphorus. Okay, so it is really potent, and it's really in a wonderful form that the plants can absorb and that the microorganisms can break down quickly. So the Zebra PT says, I made way too much bloom fertilizer. What can I do with the leftover? Now, if you're talking about the guano fertilizers, then you can apply it to the soil if you need to. If you're talking about the banana fertilizer, then just hang on to it because it'll keep. The banana fertilizer will keep all season, no problem, and just use it like that. Okay, so. Yeah, so Alex, thank you for the contribution, and I hope that they answered the question, if that was it. So Mick says, Val says, hey Nate, any suggestions on how to preserve patty pan and summer squash? That is the question. Now, there are many things in the growing world that aren't meant to be preserved, that they're meant to just be enjoyed thoroughly in the moment for what they are completely, and to really enliven the senses and to really signify a certain time period in your life or in your year, in the season. Like I was speaking, the beating heart of summer is when the patty pans are all getting eaten. So we don't try to, they're one of the things you don't even really try to preserve. You can, but then they can get mushy. I've tried to freeze them, I've tried to can them, and they've turned to mush. I've tried to dehydrate them, and then for what? I mean, for what, really? You're it's kind of like trying to store mint leaves in the same way. It's nothing like the summer mint, fresh mint that you get, this bursting with the flavor and the aroma. So in my opinion and experience, don't even bother trying to preserve them. That's one of the few plants that we don't even try to preserve, okay? Much like cucumbers, all right? We're not preserving cucumbers. This is the Richmond green apple, which is very sweet and flavorful when you get it. This is a little bit big for my liking, but the plant is just producing, an unreasonable amount of these. There's got to be 40 of them on the plant right now, and there's only 2 plants out there. So there's got to be 40 of them on the plant right now. I'm totally over the cucumbers for this season. I've juiced them, we've eaten them. Okay, enough. So I'm not trying to preserve these. Yes, you could juice them and freeze the juice and stuff like that, but we have other things for the winter time. So cucumbers are a fruit of the summer. They are a gift of the middle of summer because we're about to be pulling our cucumbers before too long. So then in response to that question, someone said, I think Mick said something about, let's see here. Mick said, for the patty pan, if you've got extra, you can shred them up in a food processor and freeze them and saute them later with butter, salt, and pepper. Yes, that can be done, definitely. Maybe you like that. Maybe you've had good results with that. In my experimentations over the years, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'd rather focus my efforts on canning green beans because they stay really good over the winter. I'd rather focus my efforts on growing more potatoes and growing more onions and things because they store really good. And by the way, I've been harvesting some of these German Butterball potatoes, guys. It's just it's unreasonable how good they are. They're too good almost. You just take, oh man, all they need is some butter, some raw butter from the raw cream, and a little bit of raw cream, a little bit of raw soured cream if you have it. That's it. Really just butter and cream. And then some of the rock salt. It makes a huge difference adding rock salt. Try it sometime. If you're used to adding fine salt, try rock salt sometime. The big chunks, not real big, but like medium size. And the crunch and it's so good because it makes for more of an inconsistent flavor. So some bites are like crunch, you'll bite into a little rock of salt and wow, it's so intense. But then other bites, it's not so intense. So it's not like the whole dish is real salty. It's just a wonderful experience. So the German Butterball potatoes are so dense and creamy, and they're like the consistency of butter. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've been eating them all the time. And yeah, people are, a lot of mainstream health and things is talking about, potatoes. You want to limit your potatoes because they've got starches and blah blah blah. That is not true at all. You want to feast on potatoes if they're done the right way. You don't want to be taking your potatoes and frying them in seed oils that have been old and oxidized and everything, and then putting sodium chloride, table salt on them and eating them that way with processed cheese and stuff. It's all about the method by which they're grown and harvested and eaten, prepared. So if you're growing German Butterballs or Yukon Golds or whatever kind of potatoes that you're growing in nutrient-rich soil, bursting with life, they are going to be so full of minerals. The potato is the only plant that the human being can survive on entirely for months and months and months on end. Now, some say indefinitely, but we know that's not really true. I mean, you can't thrive like that. But potatoes have everything the body needs for a considerable amount of time. So they're loaded with nutrients, loaded with all kinds of good stuff. I eat them all the time. So the cooking method means everything. So here's a good way, guys. You just boil them for about 20 minutes because they're really rock hard. And then smash them. Take them out whole. You boil them whole, smash them like that, and then slide them onto a hot cast iron skillet or a griddle like that and let them crisp up. And then flip them and let them crisp up on that side as well. But so it's like crispy on the edges, but then the inside is soft, like mashed, and then put butter and the rock salt over the top. So delicious, guys. Okay, Trout Satori. That's a clever name. $5. Thank you, my friend. Says, hi Nate, can you talk about PPFD for seedlings and starts? I have VivoSun LED 150 watt, and my seedlings are either leggy or burnt. Remind me again what PPFD is. What does it stand for again? There's about 10,000 different acronyms that we use. Remind me what PPFD stands for again. And let's see here. Okay, I'll wait for that response. Remind me what that means again. Ask the question again in another way. Teeth Treats, $5. Thank you, my friend. Says, I think about my consultation every day. I see results every day. I cannot thank you enough. I plan on doing another one for my fall garden. Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. And yes, guys, at the moment, I do have time for consultations. So if you want a one-on-one consultation, we can do that. It's an hour for $100. And we'll get you a plan. If it goes over an hour, that's fine too. Whatever it takes to get you a solid plan. Now, you can just have a list of questions for me. I'm doing multiple ones every week now. And so you can just have a list of questions for me, or you can send me pictures of your garden or show me your garden if your internet connection is good enough. And we can come up with a plan for how to create the best possible situation for next year, or how to put the beds to sleep, how to, anything we can do. So let me know. Just me, who are you? $20. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. I love those pictures of the chicken coop. It was looking amazing. Super cool. So thank you. Say hi to Natalie and Bonnie and Forrest and the twins. We'll see you guys in the fall. Yes. So thank you for the contribution. And there was something that the lime basil in this tea. So this is just mint and lime basil. And I got it from you guys in the springtime. And this is my first year growing lime basil, but I will never be without it again. The lime basil is one of the most unique plants that I have had. And so the smell is like Skittles. It's like Skittles and Fruit Loops and just amazing. And so I'll put a few leaves into the watermelon slushy or into the tea, and it totally changes the game. It's different than just lime. I mean, it literally is like Skittles, if you're into that. So it's been really cool. VA Green, photosynthetic photon flux density. Okay, well, it's been a while since I've been that into the indoor growing scene, so you'll have to remind me. So are you just talking about how far away the plants need to be from the canopy? So how far apart? Okay, yeah. Res Pro Go. Okay, says measurement of light intensity. Right. Okay. So I got it. Now I remember the basics about that. Of course, I remember what it matters, but a lot has changed. A lot has changed. When I was in the heat of it, we were still using high pressure sodium 1,000-watt Gavitas. The Gavita 1700 Pro, the LEDs, those were just coming out. So that was like, we were still using high pressure sodiums. Firing up the 72,000 watt diesel generator. Yeah. So let's see here. Whoa, VA Green says there's apps for your cell phone that are pretty accurate for measuring light. Wow. That's cool, because I used to have a light, the meter, I forget what the name for that is. Lux meter. So Blue Wolf agrees, says the flavor profile of lime basil is incredible. Yes, it is. Let's see. Christopher Ederai says, hey Nate, quick question. As I'm currently on vacation, we'll return August 8th. Living in Zone 5B, Canada. What can I plant when I come back for the fall garden? Okay, at that point, then you're going to want to stick with the cold hardy leafy greens. Okay, things that you don't have to wait till maturity to eat. All right, so komatsuna, shijimisa, spinach, even you could plant there. Collard greens, you could try cabbages. I don't know when your first frost is. You could definitely do a cold hardy. Now, at this point, it's best to do a really fast maturing cabbage, like the I think it's Golden Acres cabbage, or maybe it's Green Acres. Also, you could do Gloria Weinkusen. That's a pretty fast cabbage. So those would be things that you don't want things that you have to wait for, like Brussels sprouts. Those, forget about that, because you want things you can eat at any stage along the way. Arugula, peas, maybe it's going to be too much. It's too late for peas at that point. Yeah, no problem. Hank Durbs says, I really appreciate all the good knowledge that you share on here. Very righteous of you, brother. Yes, you are very welcome, my friend. I'm happy that you're here. So let me, so we're going to get into the topic here in just a little bit. I mean, it's all the topic, but I'm going to clarify a bunch of things. So there is a $5 from Donald. Thank you, my friend. It says, August Viking knowledge dues. Bat and seabird guano granular or powder? Powder. We want the powder. Okay. We want the powder. So the bat and seabird guano is like the top of the top. I mean, yes, you can make, well, we're going to get into that here in a moment when I talk about the JADAM stuff, okay? So, Christopher says, first frost is mid-October. Thank you so much for your knowledge. You have changed the game. Yes, that's what it's all about. Now, so that's about the same as here. Ours is about mid-October. So you focus on the leafy greens. Don't try and do things like head cabbage or I can't think of anything else. I mean, onions are long gone. All that other kind of stuff is gone. You know. So yeah, that's what you got. Leafy greens, bunch of them, bunch of leafy greens. Sam Potzik said, I thought Gloria Weinkusen was Gloria Weinkusen. Gloria Weinkusen. The Gloria Weinkusen cabbages. We could rename it like that, sure. That's funny. Trout Satori says, are the dangers of handling bat guano a concern? Now, I am not concerned at all about it. So there are certain, if you read on the internet, there's certain things about, there's a certain fungal spores in bat guano that if you inhale them, they can make you go crazy. You know, there's a term, you know that term bat guano crazy, someone's bat crazy. It kind of comes from that, as far as I know. So it can give you like a psychosis kind of thing, but that's like in the jungles, and that's really rare. That's not like something that we're going to be getting from a good quality, responsibly harvested batches. That's if you're like trying to go into the bat cave and get it yourself. Then you would be concerned about that. But this stuff, like from down to earth, now it's not cheap. It's not cheap, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about here in just a moment. I keep saying that, but we are. And so it's not cheap, okay? But that is one of the finest things that there is. If you only had, well, I can't say that. But really, you could grow phenomenal crops with just bat guano, definitely. And they have for many, many years. I mean, but they've used up so much of it. The indigenous cultures used to understand how much you could take and for it to still be there for their grandchildren, but we've totally lost sight of all of that in the modern culture. We don't care at all about that. We just care about me right now. Can I get some right now? That's what matters. But they actually farm them now. It's not like they just walk around looking for bat caves. They actually farm them now. So it's different. Yeah, Alex Coonan, I wouldn't be recommending that. I'm not concerned about that. But now I want to finish answering. Was there a? I wanted to finish answering. Okay, Trout Satori says, "How do you know how much light to give your plants under grow lights?" Okay, so that is the question, isn't it? So what plants are they? That's a big difference. That makes a big difference. Okay, what plants are they? So this is why, consultations work really well, because there's so many specifics. But if they're like cabbages and leafy greens and things, they don't need a whole lot of light. But if they are, for example, the cannabis, then they need a lot of light. They want full blast sun. You hardly can give them too much light. And if you're noticing symptoms of too much light, it's generally a magnesium deficiency in the plant, in the growing medium. So, but it gets very specific at that point. But if you've just got the 150 watt Vivo Sun, I mean, you don't have to worry about burning any of the plants. You really don't, because that's not going to be powerful enough. All right, like we used to have these 1,000 watt high pressure sodiums, 10 inches from the plant with a butterfly hood, just roasting everything, and they were fine. I mean, they were beyond fine. They were just growing so strong. But that requires so much more. See, when you start growing indoors, things change. There's a photosynthesis equation that has to be understood and followed. And it's light intensity plus water plus nutrients plus air equals the sugars. Okay, so that's basically what it is. I would have to see it all out at once to explain it more in depth. But all those those things that are in the photosynthesis equation are all there in certain ratios. So your light intensity has to be in ratio with the CO2 and the moisture and the nutrients that the plant can have. And so when you're raising the light too much, you also have to raise the water, and it's good to raise the CO2. It's good to raise the other things, all raise simultaneously. Okay, so we won't get too deep into that, but if you're just starting seeds, that's not really going to be a big deal. So just put that thing, I would say probably even 2 feet away from the plants, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Good morning, Brian. Yes. Okay, so let me answer this question real quick. Blue Butterfly says a question about Jerusalem artichokes. The other day, I pulled up a bunch that were being eaten by aphids. Can I use these for the fertilizer even if they are dried? Thank you. Well, it is a pesticide. So the Jerusalem artichoke is a pesticide, and the strongest part is the bulb. So yes, you can use the bulb definitely. That's the best part of the whole thing. And so you can definitely use them. That's the strongest part. Yes. Let me pour a little bit of this tea here. Yes. So the 1 million pumpkins gives the equation. Now I forget exactly. Carbon dioxide with water produces the sugars, and then oxygen. That's what it produces. That's part of it. But when growing indoors, light comes into the equation dramatically, because as far as anyone can be the limiting factor. So that's why when you add CO2 indoors to your grow room, you can crank up the light intensity to maximum intensity, because everything else, but then you got to crank up the water, you got to crank up the nutrients. Everything gets cranked up, all in comparison, or all in unison. Okay, guys. So I've been getting tons of questions about the JADAM versus the KNF system versus what I'm now calling the Viking method, the Viking system. And the Viking system is like the aerated compost teas and the guano bloom fertilizers and things like this. Different practices. Now, there are pros and cons to every system. You have to understand this. So when you come to my channel, you see 41 different fertilizer videos. And so a lot of people think, no, I got to make every one of those. I got to make all these fertilizers. And when do I apply all 41 different fertilizers? It's not like that at all. It's each system has its own strengths and its own weaknesses. Okay, so JADAM is its strength is that it's virtually free. It is the absolute lowest cost possible way to have enough fertility to grow your own food. And so does it produce good results? Yes. Does it work? Absolutely. Can you grow food with that in a very sustainable way? Absolutely. But is JADAM the end all, be all, end all, greatest of all? Does it produce the highest quality plants that are possible? Absolutely not. It does not. For that, if that's your goal, then there are much better things, such as the Viking system. That's what that's really about. So everything has its own pros and cons. Now, the KNF system, okay? The KNF system is more for a system in the tropics, really. Yes, because a lot of people have asked me, Nate, why aren't you teaching IMO? And a lot of people want to talk about IMO collection, indigenous microorganism, in the style of KNF, okay? So you have to understand, from my position as somebody who is teaching different methods of growing food, for me, it's all about simplifying everything, okay? It's all about simplifying everything. That is what I'm finding is the most important aspect of teaching these kind of systems to people, so that they can do it in a sustainable way. Meaning sustainable for the system, the ecosystem, but also for their life, so that they're not super burnt out on trying to make 41 different fertilizers, and then I got 41 different buckets all over the place, and oh my gosh, what do I use when? You don't need to do all that, okay? So the IMO, I need to, because we talked about it last time, and some people were like, well, Nate doesn't like IMO, or I felt like there was a bit of talk like I should be teaching IMO. And let me just explain to you briefly what that is, okay? So IMO, in the tradition of Korean natural farming, is where you go and you collect indigenous microorganisms from the forest using rice, using rice. And you have to, so it's a process, okay? So you have to build your box, and it has to be a certain type of box that can breathe in a certain way. You then have to cook your rice in such a way that it's perfect. It can't be too dry or too wet, otherwise it will attract the wrong kind of microorganisms, molds basically. Then you have to go out into the forest and set it in the appropriate location at the base of a big tree, generally where we would collect the leaf mold, okay? And so then you have to cover the top of the box with paper. And then you have to cover the box a little bit with leaves. And then you wait several days for the microorganisms to go in and consume the, or colonize the rice, all right? Now, then once you go in there and you remove that, if it was done successfully, you've got a box of fuzzy, sort of colorful bacteria or microorganisms. And that is your IMO 1, okay, of a 4-part process. That's IMO 1. Now, just in the IMO 1 collection, so many things go wrong, can go wrong. Animals can get into your stuff. Anytime that you're putting rice out into the forest, and ask me how I know this, it can get devastated. Now, if you're in a place like I was when I was learning these techniques, Northern California, we have bears there. There was cinnamon bears there that it doesn't matter what kind of clever little thing you're going to build, they just get into it. I mean, they'll get into your house. So it's like raccoons and all of the other kind of things want to get into that rice. And if it rains really heavily, the paper gets, messed up. There's so many things that can go wrong. And then you've collected a bunch of black molds. So I already know that if I try and teach IMO collection, there will be literally 5,000 questions about, Nate, my IMOs, it turned to mold. And so is this right? Is this right? Is this right? And it would, oh man, that's only step 1. Then you got to take that and you got to mix it with equal parts by weight of brown sugar and let that ferment. That's called IMO 2 after that process becomes a slurry. Then you got to take IMO 2 and introduce it into a huge pile of rice bran. Now, since I learned the technique many years ago, the Western people in America have since discovered it doesn't have to just be rice bran, but that's how we did it back in the day because that's the way it's taught in KNF. And so we used rice bran, but it's gotta be very, very particular. You have to spray the stuff onto the rice bran, and then the pile can only be no more than 1.5 feet tall. Otherwise it starts to compost. And then you have to monitor it between 60 and 70% moisture. It has to stay between that range, and it has to stay under 131 degrees Fahrenheit, but over 100. Do you understand how complex this is? And you have to turn it. We had to turn it constantly. Okay. So, and then after several weeks, you've got this stuff that is this beautiful. It's brilliant white. It's got mycelium all over it. It's chunks of really good quality mycelium and microorganisms. Okay. So it's wonderful. And then you go out and apply that into the fields. So it's a very drawn out, long process with lots of possibilities for error. Once you get the hang of it, it's okay. Now you would ask yourself, why would I need to use that? Okay. So that is what the creator, Hung-Young Chow of KNF, that's the technique that he used to promote. And so they used to have parties and things, not parties, but like workshops where people would come, they would cook these huge vats of rice and they would make their collection boxes, go out into the forest, put them out and all of that. And so the founder of JADAM system, Young-Sung Chow, the son of the founder of KNF, was there the whole time. And he was observing that his whole life was involved in all of that stuff. And so over the years, he began to see, okay, how can we simplify all this? How can we simplify this? And that's also what my own reasoning would be asking. How can we simplify this? And so he discovered that in the leaf mold soil, already you have this wide diversity and bounty of microorganisms. And so he simplified the whole thing. JADAM is essentially, it comes from KNF, just dramatically simplified. And so as a system, That is he came up with these techniques. Okay, he said, you know, we can just bypass that whole lengthy involved IMO collection thing and just use leaf mold soil. How about that? So the Karen Carson, yeah, I mean it definitely no, but see the thing is, okay, if you're into that, then that's perfectly fine. I'm not dogging people that are into collecting IMO. Do it if that's what you want. Absolutely, more power to you. But now, last time there was a talk, okay, well, we'll put leaf mold under a microscope and we'll put IMO4 under a microscope and I'll show you that there's a difference. Okay, I believe that. I'm not denying that there's a difference. What I am saying is that the effect, which is what I'm concerned about, the plants, the effect will be indistinguishable. It will be absolutely indistinguishable as far as the quality of produce that you can harvest and the flavors and the health of the plants, which is what matters to me. What debating what ratios of what are under the microscope, that's not my game. That's not what I'm into. You know, I don't care about that because that isn't what's important to me. What's important to me is growing the highest quality plants that can be found, the healthiest plants, the most flavorful plants, that kind of thing. And so for that, it doesn't matter what under the microscope, if IMO is different from, you know, a little bit different from leaf mold and stuff, that doesn't matter. So what matters is that it's streamlined and it's so simple. We can just use the leaf mold instead. And so to me, that's the end of the story. That's why I don't promote the IMO stuff. I felt like I just had to say that, all right? Because it definitely, there's a big, you know, people love to debate about stuff in the online world. And for me, there's no debate because it's all just about what the plants are responding to. So you will not ever notice, there's no noticeable difference. Now, again, it's all about parameters. So if you go to the jungles, if you go to the tropics, there's actually not much leaf mold. There's actually not much. I know it seems counterintuitive, but in the tropics, they don't have a lot of leaf mold soil and fluff. Like for example, if you go into the woods here in northern Indiana, then you will see like a foot of just fluffy, spongy, beautiful, decomposing plant matter that is really rich in all kinds of microorganisms and stuff. And that is not present in the tropics, in the jungles, like in Thailand and Sri Lanka and India, a lot of places in India where I've been and all these places I've been to and I've seen. And these jungles, it all decomposes so quickly. And they have a rainy season that washes that stuff out. So you'll see like a hard clay with tree roots in it. Not like northern Indiana clay, but like a red powdery kind of clay. It's a different kind of clay, but you don't see that foot of nice spongy leaf mold like you do here. Okay, so in the tropics, making IMO all the way through would make sense because you can't just go collect leaf mold and your soils are deficient. Contrary to popular understanding, the soils in the tropics are actually quite not rich. They're not rich in nutrients. So that would work there, okay? Now, let me just finish this rant before I get to any more questions because this was the topic and I want to deliver on the topic of what I titled it. Is that it's all about specific goals and needs. So if your goal is to grow food and is for absolutely as cheap as possible, go with JADAM all the way. It will work. Absolutely. It's wonderful. Now, is it the best of the best as far as producing the results? No, it's not. KNF can also produce wonderful results. See, we use different a la carte. And so thus has been born the Viking method, which is many different methods. Not just JADAM, not just KNF, but also other things I've seen throughout the world, also other things I've just come to over the years. And so the Viking method, we utilize labs from the KNF tradition. We utilize fish amino acids from the KNF tradition. But we also, and we utilize the water-soluble calcium from the KNF tradition. But we also do things in the style of JADAM, understanding leaf mold soil. We use the leaf mold soil in the aerated compost teas. Yes. So the Viking method is all about growing the highest quality stuff possible. And being flexible, being very, very flexible. If you've got some money to invest, then we got you. We can do it that way and to produce phenomenal results. But if not, then okay, we can do it another way and we can also produce good results. Yeah. So that's why we've settled on the aerated compost teas and the foliars of the guano fertilizers. And then using dry amendments. For some people, dry amendments, and we'll get more into this next year, using dry amendments. And for some people, that's really the way to go, to just purchase a little bit of dry amendments at the beginning of the year, and there's no hauling manures, there's no hauling trailer loads of this and that, and there's no cover cropping and stuff. For some people, that's the way to go. So if there's any questions about that, please let me know. But I hope that that clarifies. You know, I'm not just blindly, because someone was like, Nate's just dismissing IMO. I'm not just dismissing anything. I have the mind of a scientist, but also of an explorer. And so I see and I observe, and then I utilize what is going to produce the best results. Yes? So there is my thing on that. So the let's see, what is talking about shrimp amino acid? Does that work the same? You know, I can't say because I've never made amino acids from shrimp. I mean, I've never done with the sugar. I've made like the chitin JLF with crab and stuff like that, but not the shrimp. So I can't say for sure. Yeah. Karen, nobody's wasting time on yeast. That's right. Don't bother, guys. Don't bother. Because there are so many things, man, there are so many things I see on the internet now that are just straight false. That are people trying to make a business. Once they find out that you can make money having viral videos, then they just find out, well, what do I have to do to make a viral video? Doesn't matter if it's true or anything. What do I have to do to make an engaging viral video that will make me money? And then that's what they do. And so there's this yeast. You just mix sugar and yeast and pour it around the base of the plants. This video has over 1 million views in just a couple of weeks. It's going around. And so many people have sent me this video. And guys, it doesn't work like that. Some table sugar and some yeast from a packet is going to do what? By what mechanism does this actually work? You know, and nobody ever explains that in those videos. They just say, pour this on the plants for strong, robust roots. Okay, how? Pour this on the plants for big, beautiful tomatoes. Okay, how? How does that work? By what mechanism does that work? That doesn't make any sense. That's just a claim. That doesn't mean anything, you know? And you're not even showing me big, beautiful tomatoes. You're just showing me little sticks in the ground. And they're in the tropics where things grow totally different. There's basically the tropics and then everywhere else. Yeah. So the Indiana Backyard Gardener says, I would rather do a compost extract and not bother with aeration. Well, if you have truckloads of compost, that would be perfectly fine. But if you're trying to, the thing about the aeration is that we are multiplying the microbes. And this is verifiable under microscope. This you can verify under microscope, but also the effect. You can notice the effect. That's why the only time that I do extracts are if we're foliar feeding or if for the seedling fertilizer. They're great, but they require such a huge amount of compost. Of high quality compost, and I'm not there yet to have that much compost. So it's actually not really that involved. So a lot of people talk about, I can't be bothered to brew an aerated tea, but I'm like, what do you mean? You just put the ingredients in a bag and put the air stone in there, and 24 hours later you remove it, and there you go. I mean, it's really not that involved. So I don't. Blue Wolf, yeah. Okay, well, yes. So then in that case, you said, yes, absolutely. I get free compost. My county offers free leaf compost. Well, there you go. Project of Old Man, okay, says there may be validity to adding fungi to the soil web. Yeast is fungi and protozoa are omnivorous. Okay, so then my question would be, how is getting yeast out of a packet, like this video that shows this, how is a packet of yeast in any way superior to the multitude of different wild yeast strains that you are capturing from the atmosphere when you're brewing an aerated compost tea that is full of yeast as well? But how is that superior in any way to the aerated compost tea? That's the question. That would be the question. VA Green says takes like 10 minutes to set up compost tea brew. Yeah, and once you get it set up, you get your little brew station and stuff once a week. Guys, it's so easy. It's so easy. And once you experience the results of this in the garden and how your plants are disease free. Your plants are disease free, they're thriving. There's no smell of death. You know, it just everything smells like fresh baked bread. And if you use the homemade fish fertilizer, it just lightly smells like you're at the lake. It doesn't smell rancid or anything like that. Someone said, Mr. Miles says, I watched the video on making compost tea. The system itself is a major project. Too much for me at this point. Well, then that's for you, definitely. But many of us have no problem brewing something like that. Now, that must mean that you have a very small garden, or that the garden isn't really that important to you. So in that case, that's perfectly fine. You would be a person that would want to purchase things probably. So Luke says, what's the point of multiplying microorganisms? It is really the whole foundation of growing organically. It's all about the microorganisms. Much more important than anything else is the life in the soil. And so when we can, that's really the main advantage of compost. And pretty much everyone knows about applying compost, how when you apply compost, the plants really perk up. Now, compost tea is like a liquid compost. Let's see here. The Dread says, can you use FPJ in a compost tea? Yes, absolutely. You could add it at the end of brewing. You could add FPJ if you wish to sort of stimulate plant growth. FPJ can be really good in the growth phase of things because in particular, we are trying to extract growth hormones. In an FPJ, auxin is one of the several enzymes and hormones that we're trying to extract. And that is located at the highest growing tip of the plant. And so that's why we harvest the growing tips. We make the FPJ with it, and it can osmotically, through osmotic pressure, extract the enzymes and hormones that we need. And then we can apply that to the plants, and it really does work. It works wonderfully. So, but you don't put that in there at the beginning. You put that in there at the end, right before brewing. Yes? Let's see. Luke Blackford says, what is the point of it in tea? The MO dies. Well, I don't believe that to be true. My experience over the years has said that the tea is the lifeblood of good fertilization program. So the IMO, when I began, we used to look in the microscope, and so it does not die. It's the opposite of die. So I can't say there. Mr. Miles says, I live in an apartment, very limited on space. Okay, so see, that makes sense. So you were talking about the compost tea setup is too much. Now that makes sense. So it's all about what you have, your parameters. you know. And so for you, then still even just a small air pump in a 5 gallon bucket is all that's needed. You don't have to make the big 55 gallon brewer, but I still think that even is the best situation for you, unless just buying a jug of like Neptune's Harvest fish fertilizer. That can be really good, and using all of the other practices, you know. So it's a thing. The more that you learn, the more options you have. It's all about options. It's all about options. Donald Hughes says, we'll always have compost tea now. You can sit by the garden and watch the plants grow. That's barely an exaggeration. I know. It's amazing. Stonemason, that's a really good point. Veggies grown using microbes makes everything else taste like cardboard. This is exactly right. This is one reason that hydroponic stuff is very flavorless, is because it doesn't have the power of the microorganism, the power of the soil food web. So guys, many of you have asked about what variety of tomato was it. It is the Rosa de Milano, okay? Cannot recommend it highly enough. It's my new favorite, did I say tomato? The onion. It is my new favorite red onion. I used to grow the Weathersfield Red for several years, but now I'm growing the Rosa de Milano for sure, beyond any doubt. It's much sweeter. It's not so just like pungent. It's not like these, the yellow of Parma, are super pungent and really, make your eyes water and stuff. These will also make your eyes water, but they're sweeter. There's really like a red wine vinegar kind of taste to them. So really delicious. I highly recommend the Rosa de Milano, also the yellow of Parma. If you're towards the south, though, if you're south of Tennessee, I recommend the Australian brown. That's an intermediate day onion. So, let's see here. Yes, you guys. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Mr. Miles says, I'm confused. Everyone here is saying the compost tea is a simple process, but the video I saw involved high-end air compressors and PVC pipes, expensive and not so simple to start. So you watch the one that is about for large gardens, and that is the one that is for large garden. Actually, next week I'm going to be making one on how to brew in a 250-gallon IBC tote for actually large gardens, because I'm going down to my friend Jerry, and we're going to set up a 250-gallon IBC brew station for the aerated tea, and it's a whole different design. You'll see. But no, the one I'm talking about for you is just the one. Watch my video called, I think, Liquid Compost, aerated compost tea. It's the first one I put out, and that is just a 5-gallon bucket and a small little pump, which is just they're like $35 for the pump, and it lasts indefinitely. You put the air hoses into the 5-gallon bucket, and there you go. You've brewed it. Taylor Reindl, $20. Thank you for the contribution, my friend. I appreciate you. Says, thanks for great knowledge and encouragement every weekend. Any advice for mole management, eating everything? Vole management. Voles can be a real pain, guys. Let Taylor know, what are some of your solutions for vole management? I remember we were talking about this last year, I think, and we were talking so much. People were talking about put juicy fruit, bubble gum down there with the wrapper on it, and put this and that down there. And it's I don't think we ever found anything that actually really worked, did we? American Patriot says, what about using these methods on cannabis? Is there a way that will give it the things that it needs in real time? Well, it goes like this, guys. All the things that we talk about on this channel are about creating thriving soil microbiome, really. So that whatever plant you put in there is going to thrive. Now, there's certain adjustments that would be made for certain plants. Yes, that plant in particular is very unique in its growing habits and its nutritional needs. But beyond everything else, what is the most important is what you put into the soil. All these liquid fertilizers and even the compost tea and stuff, that is additional. That is additional and for the microorganisms. Now, what you put into the soil is very important. If you're growing organically, if you're growing, like we used to do indoors in California, some of the grows that I worked on and stuff, where we would just use soilless growing medium, which was just like a pro mix, peat and perlite mix. And then we would use general hydroponics. And that's just pure chemicals. And we would drip it into there constantly. So that's a whole different style of growing. And that's not what we need organically. So there was no nutrients in that soilless growing medium. So we would drip that stuff in there, but that functions in a totally different way. Chemicals are already in the form that the plant can absorb. And so organically, we have to have the stuff in the soil so that the plant can absorb whatever it wants when it needs it, so that it doesn't have to struggle for the nutrients. It doesn't have, anytime it wants to reach for something, it's right there. So this is important. And so, so what we put into the soil is the most important thing, all right? Isaiah says, love your videos, man. I appreciate all the work you do to help us beginner gardeners out. Yes, thank you, my friend. I'm glad that you're feeling it. Definitely. Yeah, and don't let this talk, some of this talk about IMO and stuff like that, that just had to be addressed. So don't even worry about that. If you guys are beginning gardeners, don't even, just keep it super simple. Learn to make the aerated compost tea. I'm telling you, that's going to be your best bet. And you're going to have the best success with that. The most overall success. Watch the original video that I made and just make that and just apply that. And that's all you need. Now, that does include the fish fertilizer, of course. So the fish fertilizer is very important to use, all right? But other than that, you don't need much else. And find some manures, or next year we'll get more into granular, like alfalfa meal as opposed to feather meal, blood meal as opposed to feather meal. You got to know things about dry nutrients. For example, blood meal is available to the plants almost immediately. It's got tons of water-soluble nutrients in it that as soon as you water that stuff in there, the plants can absorb a lot of it. And then the rest can really quickly be converted by the microorganisms. So blood meal starts releasing the nitrogen to the plants almost immediately, within a day or two. And they will start absorbing that. But it's quick-lived, so it only goes for about 1 month. And then all the blood meal nutrients are totally consumed and used up, the nitrogen. So as opposed to feather meal has a different composition, and it doesn't even begin to become plant available for about a month. But then it stays plant available for roughly 3 months, 3 to 4 months. So so this is why it's so particular. A good granular fertilizer will have a certain ratio of blood meal to a certain ratio of feather meal. So you got that immediate release, and then you've got that long sustained release like that. But you don't want to put too much of the sustained release in there. Otherwise, you'll be having too much nitrogen later into the season. So I tried to simplify it, and then there I go complicating it. So sorry, guys. Whoa, Mountainside Homestead says, Nate, I'm in northern Montana and my onions are still bulking. Does the onion take longer to start growing the further north you go? I can't say for sure, although that's about as late as I've heard. Most of the onions are pretty much done. Just make sure that so if they're still bulking, leave them. But once about 10% of the necks start to fall over by themselves, then you harvest the whole crop. That's contrary to the internet. The internet says, oh, you got to wait till every one of the tops fall over. No, that's not my experience. My experience is that they will store so much better if you just wait until about 10% fall over and then harvest all of them. Yeah? Look at that, guys. Look at that. It's incredible, yes? So Isaiah says, so does JADAM weed fertilizer have pathogens? Because it does stink. I'm scared of using it on my vegetables. Well, the JADAM stuff, you pretty much don't use it at all on the leaves. The JADAM fertilizers, I don't ever use on the leaves anymore, and don't recommend that. And I recommend the anaerobic fertilizers, the JADAM, to be digested all the way before using, unfortunately. So I used to be all about just start digesting it and using it, after a couple of weeks. I've changed my tune on that because it just does, in my experience, tend to produce the only places, I can put it this way, the only places that I saw disease the past 5 years of doing it like this is where the JADAM stuff was applied to the leaves of the plant when it was undigested. Okay, so I still didn't have much disease. By most people's standards, you'd be like, "What are you talking about? 1 or 2 plants here and there." But for me, I demand absolute perfection, and so I see that and I go, "Okay, that's not. How did that happen?" And so then, so the next year I said, okay, well, I'm only going to apply them. I'm not going to make any fresh ones. I'm going to apply them only to the soil once they're fully digested. No disease, just good, healthy plants. Then the next year, I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just not really going to use any of that. And I'm just going to use aerated compost teas, and phenomenal results. And that's been the past couple of years, the past 2 years, really. But like I said, I've got multiple different operations going on, and we use different things at different places. So it's all about, if you're off grid, JADAM is wonderful because it just doesn't require much and it's cheap. Meyer Lemons, my friend. Okay, says Nate, I have a bag of Bokashi bran. Okay to add it to the compost bin. Absolutely, it's okay to add to the compost bin. Yeah, absolutely. That will be a wonderful thing. But guys, Meyer Lemons sent me a little care package, sent a donation. Thank you very much, my friend. But also sent me something that is amazing, some seeds. Okay, so edamame, I don't grow much anymore because my life is free of soy, except for the fermented soy products. Like the little bit of tamari and a little bit of soy sauce. That's the only type of soy that I like to use. But I do know some place that I can grow those. But these things got me super excited. Well, okay, there's a jalapeno, which I will grow these jalapenos. There's an ancho poblano, which is wonderful. But then there's these peppers I never even heard of. So violet sparkle, crimson carillon, college sweet pepper, espleti, sweet pepper. I mean, guys, that's awesome. Because Fruition is a good little company, although they've stopped selling seeds now. They no longer sell seeds. But they were a very good company. As far as their genetics and stuff like that, they're a very good company. So I can appreciate these. And the Coming Dawn mix of pole snap beans. See, I never heard of these. So to me, that's like a Christmas. Plants I never heard of, I'm growing them next year. You can guarantee that. So thank you very much. Guys, if you have not already, give the video a thumbs up, please. I would appreciate that. That helps us to grow the tribe, which we are always trying to do. Now, guys, now is the good time. So sage, you can, If it's flowered already, cut it back hard, and then it will grow again. And then harvest the growing tips and then dry them. All right. Now is a good time, middle of summer, so that they're in full essential oil production. Now is the best time for the fullest flavor. And then I just hang them like this. Up in the other room, and then as I need them in the wintertime for like making bone broth or making anything with like pork, sausage, and stuff like that, I will take this whole thing and I can just throw it in the pot. It's delicious. So highly recommend it. Sage is such a wonderful thing. Jay, yeah, Nate, are you going to do the onion order list? Next time I will be doing that. Yes, it will be ready by then. So there is still spots left. The crop turned out just fine, and so there will be spots left. We're going to get that stuff shipped out within the next few weeks. We're going to get that organized. And so you will be getting your walking onions, and you can plant them right away. You can plant them right away. Mr. Miles says, that's a lot of sage to use all at once. Oh man, not if you're making like a batch of bone broth, or if you watch my collard green recipe, how I use either a smoked turkey leg or a smoked ham hock, something like that. Boil that with this much sage, some rosemary, some thyme if you have it, some summer savory, and essentially make a stock. And then you strain it all out and then use that liquid to cook the collard greens in. Super delicious. And yes, I would definitely use that much sage. You want that full flavor in there. I use tons of herbs, tons of herbs. Keith says, can I use the bloom juice on the tomato leaves? Absolutely. Are you talking about the homemade fermented one? I don't use on the leaves with the bananas, but I will use the guano one. Absolutely. I use it on the leaves here. Yep. And they are doing wonderful. Wonderful tomatoes, luscious, delicious Cherokee purples. We're going to start fermenting the purple bumblebee tomatoes here. We're going to start fermenting these pretty soon. Oh. So the Meyer Lemon says they will stop selling August 27th. You can still buy from them until 10 p.m. Eastern on August 27th. So that is, she's talking about Fruition Seeds. They got a lot of good genetics there, adapted to the north. So if you're anywhere in Canada, or I don't know if they ship to Canada, but if you're anywhere in the north, meaning like north of Kentucky, then they got good genetics for that. Three Puff Pass says, hey Nate, do you have a Cash App? Don't want the man to take their chunk. Hey, I'm all about that. So thank you. In the video description of here, I've got PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App options. Yes, that goes directly to me. Which, by the way, I wanted to thank Gary. I wanted to thank Gary Smith again. Thank you very much for the $30 donation via PayPal. You are driving with the family right now, so you can't watch the live, but I just want you to know that I got that, so thank you very much. I also got Brian Aries, $5, consistent contribution, monetarily, but energetically as well. It's wonderful. He's also part of the Thrive Tribe that we do the Thrive Live every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We on Thrive Like a Viking. We do a talk there, which this week is going to be a powerful one, guys. It's the dark night of the soul. Yes. So we finally get into this topic because one of the tribe members is possibly really going through it right now. And so we are going to share our thoughts. We're going to share our thoughts on that. There's no telling what can spark the transformation in somebody. There's no telling what can spark the fire of transformation. So, ooh, yeah, Signal Law says, I have a batch of purple bumblebee ferment with the date of 6/14. Okay, nice. They should be good and soured by now. Sister Golden Hair says, love your bud swell recipe, just made it. Yes, definitely. Now, it's not quite as, I mean, it's not as concentrated as the actual bud swell that you purchase, you know, but it's also not $56 a gallon. So it's perfectly, I mean, I didn't notice a difference. I mean, when I was spraying that stuff on the plants as opposed to buying the bud swell, it's, but I do want to comment on something that I see sometimes that I want to remind you guys that you never combine chemicals with organic. So some people they think that, okay, well, I'll transition to organic or something, but I'm going to use Miracle Grow. Sometimes I'll give them Miracle Grow, or sometimes I'll give them, Master Blend, or sometimes I'll give them Grow More. But then I'll use, aerated compost tea and then fish fertilizer and stuff. Now, they work by totally different mechanisms, guys. One relies on the soil food web to make nutrients available to the plants. The other doesn't rely on anything because it's created in a laboratory to already be in a form that the plant is forced to absorb. And so it bypasses that whole soil food web. And so we're killing and starving out the soil food web using the chemical fertilizers. And so we need, in order to use organic fertilizers, homemade and natural fertilizers, we need a strong, robust microbiome, okay? It's very much like our body. In order for us to digest all kinds of stuff with ease, including pathogens and stuff like that, we need to have a strong, robust gut microbiome. For example, I consume 5 or 6 raw eggs every single day in my shake. I put them into the blender in the Viking Virility shake. And so you have to have a strong gut microbiome. I wouldn't recommend that to everybody. You know, I also eat raw beef liver. Just cut it up and eat it, as you saw me do one time here. I also drink raw milk, all these things. Now, that I wouldn't recommend to someone just with a weak gut microbiome. If you're coming from the SAD, the standard American diet, no doubt you have a decimated gut microbiome. And so therefore, you're going to have all kinds of issues trying to absorb certain things. Your digestive fire, it just isn't hot enough yet. But once you get the right combination of things happening over time, your digestive fire becomes like a blast furnace. And anything you put in there, it digests and it assimilates. No problem. No problem. So a lot of people ask me about if I'm concerned about, so you mean to tell me that you're spraying Baguano on your food that you're going to eat? That sounds insane. Or you're putting dead fish on the food you're going to eat. What about this and that bacteria and this and that? That's a non-issue, guys. That's a non-issue. I think it just helps. It's been my experience that all those things, to a degree, we're not going to tempt fate, of course, but to a degree, it just helps. So it makes you stronger. It makes your gut microbiome more resilient. And so you don't have to worry about the things, the bacterias and stuff like that, that are in these well-made fertilizers that you apply to the plants. Of course, we use common sense. We don't spray the fish on there and then go out and harvest it and eat it without washing it, So we're washing it, of course, in just water and vinegar. But we've never had any issues whatsoever. We're thriving. And so it doesn't... Now, I would work my way up to that, though. If you're coming from the SAD, okay, the standard American diet, which is processed food, taking antibiotics from the pharmacy, all this kind of stuff, drinking alcohol, all that kind of stuff, sugary beverages, it all kills the gut microbiome. And that's what it's all about. The gut microbiome is what it's all about. And so if you're coming from that, I wouldn't just immediately rely on your immune system to defend you against all that stuff. I would work up to eating the raw beef liver, the raw eggs, and the raw stuff, But I would start with like homemade sauerkraut. I would start with homemade kefir. I would start with homemade fermented vegetables, homemade fermented tomatoes. All that stuff's going to be really good for the microbiome. Keith Christensen says, people who have never grown the food they eat every day would have nightmares if they only knew. This is true. This is absolutely, people have no idea. Even the stuff that is labeled organic from the store. If you research this, which of course I have in depth, you will see that there's organic no longer means chemical free. It just means certain types of chemical free. And sometimes they're using the same chemicals or derivatives of these chemicals, but in lower amounts and in a form that degrades faster in the soil. So therefore, they have to apply it 3 times more often than they do the conventional stuff. So you have to be careful even with the organic. I mean, always buy organic, of course, now. Always buy organic. Don't even think about buying conventional. But even the organic stuff is nowhere near what we're growing ourselves. We think it used to be like that in the 90s when organic was first coming around. We think organic is just like our backyard garden. It is not that way anymore. It's still better than the other stuff, than regular though. Teats Treat says, is it okay to eat veg off the vine after using Ultimate Slug? So long as it's rinsed, yes. I mean, don't spray it and then go and consume it, of course. It needs to be rinsed off. But it's just sodium hydroxide, which is basically soap ingredients. I mean, it's caustic soda, but in small, I mean, it's just not a problem. It's just not a problem. Muddy Paws, that's right. Labs and the Labs cheese does a body good. Definitely. Mr. Miles says, yeah, I don't even want to read that. But yeah, you're right. I know. Pell says, no alcohol. What? Yeah, I know. It's totally absurd to even... There was a point in life when I couldn't even imagine a life totally free of alcohol. But here we are. 6 years and not a single mind or mood altering substance whatsoever. Left the whole life behind. You have to just leave it all behind if you want to thrive. In no scenario is alcohol in any dosage is it beneficial for your experience in this world. Your mental state, primarily your mental emotional state, your physical state. It is poison. Absolutely. Now, of course, in American culture, there's a push. Oh, it's healthy. It's healthy. Antioxidants. No, that's people justifying their buzz. Definitely. It's really not. So, yeah, a life totally free of alcohol feels amazing. At first, you're thinking, how will I have fun? How will I know how will I relax at a social gathering and stuff? Well, you just find a way. You just become happy inside. You just find a way naturally to do it instead. And if you want to know that kind of stuff, come over to the Thrive Like a Viking, chats that we do on Monday mornings at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, where we talk about how to get to this state of mind, how to cultivate ourselves to the point where we don't need any outside source. We have total control over the mental, emotional energy field. So Mick Hegarty, $50. Thank you very much, my friend. Says, just because. Man, that is nice. Appreciate the contribution. Yes. Hope everything is going well where you are at. I want to see some pictures. Post it to the Discord, please. Garden pictures. Just show us some pictures of your progress. Now, are you posting somewhere? Like your progress on the land? Karen Carson, 14 years sober in April. That's good to hear, my friend. That is very good to hear. Yeah, Stives says, I need... Yeah, I don't know about that. You know, why? I mean, the thing is, why do we need... I got to the point where I was like, okay, well... am I living my life or is the substance living my life? I mean, if I can't relax without having a toke, then do I have control over my life? No, I'm putting the power outside of myself. I'm giving my power away, saying, okay, well, I need to have a drink. Otherwise, I can't tolerate this social situation, or I can't relax without a puff. That is a trap. That is a prison, and it can trap you for a lifetime. It feels so much cleaner having the power, taking the power back and saying, you know what? I don't actually need any of that stuff because I have the power to determine my mental, emotional energy field. So Alberto, $5. Thank you for the consistent contribution, my friend. Says, excellent live session. Blessings, my brother. Yes, blessings to you too. Mr. Miles says, Nate, you don't believe small, and I do mean small, amounts of red wine is good for red blood cell production. You know what is, no, I don't. I do not believe that anymore. I believe that's pushed by the industry, by several industries. And well, we talk about that on Thrive Like a Viking. But no, that kind of thing is pushed. It's absolutely not required in any way. You take these good tomatoes. You take blueberries. You take, there's so many other ways. If you're hardcore and you do the raw beef liver in any way, or even just eating the red meat, you're going to get all kinds of good high quality nutrients in you. If you're eating the shijimisia, if you're juicing we make a juice like 4 times a week. We make a juice with beets, celery, and parsley, and tons of each, and some green apples. Now that has got so much good stuff. It's blood red. It's as thick as ox blood. It is amazing. You drink that. No, I have no concern whatsoever that I'm missing anything because I'm not drinking red wine or drinking alcohol in any way whatsoever. And I just, because my mood is my own now. It doesn't rely on anything. So, yeah, Sam Potzik says, I always become a wreck when I have got one type of monkey or another on my back. Man, I lived that way for several years. Anthony Kelly, thank you, my friend. $2 says, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, bro. Yes, I appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you. Mr. Miles says, have you ever grown mushrooms? Man, we grow mushrooms all the time in the basement, all winter long, out of buckets. Lion's mane, purple or yellow oysters, blue oysters. Those are the 3 main ones that we grow. Yes, all the time. Val says, Nate, can you tell me how to cut pothos to propagate? Don't want to mess up my only house plant. Yeah, okay. If you want to propagate it, it's very, very simple. So you'll cut the vine, and then you'll see the leaf, and there will be a, let's see here. Okay, so you will, here's how we'll do it. Okay, look, see this vine here? So here's a leaf. So we're going to cut here. This needs to be done anyways, okay? So don't worry. We're going to cut, now here's one leaf. This is a node. We're going to cut about a 1/2 inch on that side of the node, and then a 1/2 inch on this side of the node, okay? And so this is what we're left with. And this right here is going to put down roots and become its own vine. So when you see a healthy pothos plant, like if you get one from the store and it's got a bunch of vines, each vine is one of these. So the pothos doesn't really branch out very much. It's not like other plants. So if you want a thick, full, if you want a thick, full bush, like all of my plants are, if you watch my houseplant tour and stuff, you got to plant a bunch of these. Plant like at least 10 into the pot, so you can go through and do all that with the whole vine. You can just keep cutting, but you want to make them like this. Stick them into water for about, if you put them outside so that they're in the heat, but not the direct sun, no direct sun, but heat. If you apply that, or you put them in the heat, then they will root really fast. And you're in Arizona, so if you put them in the shade, they'll root in like 2 weeks or maybe a month at the most. Then you can put them into the soil. But they root the best stuck in water, just like this. So we'll just take it and essentially stick it into the water just like that. Here's some cilantro, and we will just stick it into the water just like that. And do about 5 or 10 of them and leave them till you start to see the roots splay out. And you'll see them, they're real thick. Handstand Dad, that is such a great question. Says, what are some life principles to live by / your philosophies or religion you personally follow? Psychedelics? Question mark. Just wondering how you reach your state of mind. Please, if you are really wondering that, join us in the Thrive Like a Viking channel, where we talk about all that kind of stuff. It's, I've been into all different forms of religion over the years and traveled to so many different countries, and really engrossed myself, deeply immersed myself in different cultures and religions, and so kind of have developed just this perspective. So it's, man, I love that kind of question, and I would go on and on and on about that, but we will save that for the Thrive Like a Viking tribe, okay? Thank you. So guys, give the thumbs up if you haven't already. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Stone Mason says, thanks, Nate. I'm in green bean jail today. Good to have something to watch while canning. Yeah, that can take a long time. Guys, if you haven't check out my Amazon storefront for the canner that I have. I got it just last year, and we're talking after many years of using other canners, like the Presto canner. I got this all-American canner, and I will never look back. It was expensive. It was like $600 for this one, but it is worth every penny. It's a whole different level. It will last a lifetime. You can tell. It's just heavy duty. It's like industrial. It's the only one. The Presto canners, I was always nervous to even go in the kitchen because it just like was right about to explode, you know? This thing, I'll cook right next to it. It does not feel, no concern like it's gonna explode or anything. So you can just tell the quality is so much higher on this one. So check out my Amazon storefront if you want to see the exact one. Yes, Mr. Miles, you're welcome. Says, thanks for being so helpful with the gardening community. Yes, very welcome. Right, Muddy Paws says, sounds like we should have a full house on Monday Thrive. Yeah, which would be good because it's going to be a good one. We're talking about the much requested Dark Night of the Soul. Are you going through it? And how do you get out of it? Is there an end to it? Of course there is. Ooh, Mr. Miles says, do you ever miss your dreadlocks? Absolutely not. Guys, I used to have dreadlocks down to my lower back. It took me about 5 years to grow them out when I was traveling and stuff and living in the mountains. And they were nasty. I mean, I can't say that. Everybody was saying that at the time, but I denied that. But now looking back, they really were. For this kind of hair, it's not really nice. So no, I do not miss having dreadlocks. It is a commitment, guys. Having dreadlocks is a serious commitment. You get them wet, they stay wet for days unless you dry them out and everything. It's just, no, I don't miss. Ooh, Pilar says, highly recommend Monday mornings. You can actually feel the energy. It's trippy. Yes, thank you, my friend. Yes. Brian says, Nate, I watched some of your earlier videos and your transformation is obviously amazing. Good living is the key to good health. Man, that is so observant of you because, yes, I see the same thing. Well, and I know how, oh my goodness, so much changed. So much has changed. That's how we know all of this stuff works. That's how we know because we're the living proof. Val says, Nate, I thought you cut longer vines. No? You can, yeah. But this one didn't need any cut any further. You can cut vine 10 feet long. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it is. So like this one, I could cut it here if I wanted to, and then do that to every one of these. And I would have a bunch of plants, It doesn't matter how long it is. Meyer Lemon says, I'm terrified of pressure canning. Not if you get the all-American canner. I'm telling you, it's pretty awesome. Keith Christensen says, Nate, do you have any tips for off-grid from your experience in NorCal? Oh, man, yes. I could have a whole series on that, and we will. Once we get the land and the school and everything, we will talk much more about that kind of thing. If I could boil it all down to one thing, it's Don't expect that you're going to live the same type of lifestyle just off grid with solar generators and all this kind of stuff. You have to dramatically reduce your entire concept of consumption as far as energy. It's all about energy. And so you have to, and so how off grid are you, if you've got 7,000 pounds of lithium batteries and stuff like that all over the place, and you've got thousands and thousands of dollars in solar panels and everything like that, and you're trying to run your air conditioner and all. I mean, just how off grid? Okay, so why don't you just stay on the grid? But I'm not taking from the grid, but yet I've got 4 diesel generators and I've got all this other stuff. Like, okay, but you just got to know what it's a whole different lifestyle with pros and cons, just like every other system. Pros and cons. Man, I got tons I could say on that. Let's see. Tina Chuk says, on red wine, Nate, you are absolutely right. Recent researchers, those practicing natural living, have bursted them. But yeah, I'm sure that you're talking about the recent research. There's tons of recent research that has come out saying, okay, for years it was like, oh, a little bit of alcohol is good. No, in any level, it's poison. And I can say that just from an energetic, spiritual standpoint as well, just from an emotional standpoint as well. But definitely. So let's see here. Donald Hughes says, was worried about the smell of the bloom spray, but it's good. You talking about with the guanos? Oh, it's no problem at all. It's no problem at all. This guy says, look into electroculture. Make something at least 10 feet tall and your garden will amaze you. Okay, you heard it here. Dorothy Fu says, you should change your photo in your channel to your present image. Wow. Really? You think so? That is the first I've ever even considered that, but it would make more sense. It would make a lot more sense because I was still in the transformation. I was still not transformed at that time, we could say. Queen RB, I appreciate your skepticism. Says research. Yeah, need to know who's paying for it. Research can be skewed. Absolutely. I totally get it. But in what way? Okay, and I'm all about that. But I am saying that I don't need research because I can just tell. I mean, not consuming a poison is good for me. I can just tell in every level. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So, Laura F. Larson says, I make tinctures with vodka. Are you saying that's bad? I'm not saying it's bad. Now, when I make, if you make tinctures, it's good to open it and let it, most of the alcohol will evaporate. Now, if you're sick or something, I'm not saying medicinally, if you want to use it, not a problem. But it's tinctures, and you're taking really small amounts, so tinctures can be wonderful for you, definitely. Handstand Dad, wow, yeah, says that shows how much you are not outwardly thinking about your social media presence, which I mean in the best of ways. I totally understand that. Yeah, and it's true. It definitely is. Very observant. Yes. Yeah, because I'm all just focused on refining the skills and learning new techniques. I mean, developing new techniques, growing new vegetables, growing stuff, really pushing it and sharing it with you guys, developing a lifestyle that will create the streams of income that are necessary or whatever to get the land. That's what it's all about. Getting the land so we can get the homestead, get the school happening, all that kind of stuff. I'm way more concerned about that kind of stuff. So Now let's see here. Dorothy says, when I first saw you, I thought you are in your 50s. Thank you. Thank you. I just turned 39. I know what you mean, though. You mean, and I felt the same way. It's the energy. I was so old at that time. Oh man, I've been living rough. In the mountains, I was living rough. Traveling like that. So I felt like I was 1,000 years old. But now, I feel light and younger all the time. So, I know, Queen RB, that's the thing. I like the thumbnail. Iconic. It's almost a trademark. I know, that's the thing. Keith Christensen, YouTube Premium is so worth it. No commercials, music streaming, worth every penny. I could not agree more. Man, since the day I got YouTube Premium, since I don't have television, I don't listen to radio, I only select things from YouTube or from like Amazon Prime, just select things. It's amazing because I have no advertisements in my life. So when I go to some place that doesn't have YouTube Premium and we watch a video and an advertisement pops up and it's all loud and obnoxious, I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels so aggressive. Because for me, it's like 2009 again, or 2007, just YouTube, no commercial, no nothing. Gloria Young says, really, do you smoke weed still? No, not a drop of anything. Absolutely not, because I don't need it anymore. Because I've developed the skills to be at ease with myself and my life and the present moment. So I don't need to escape anything in any way. Nothing can enhance how good I already feel. It can only detract from it. A substance can only dull how clear and sharp I feel all the time now. So there's no need for it, And that's truly the way it is. Caffeine, I have a cup of coffee in the morning and a cup of tea in the afternoon, yes. But as far as like energy drinks, I used to take energy drinks. I used to take no-dose, caffeine tablets. All that stuff's gone. Nope, no need for any of it. Handstand Dad, let us talk about that on the Thrive Like a Viking channel sometime. Definitely, I have got a lot to say on that as well. Donald Hughes says, advertisements, you mean like this show? Well, if you have YouTube Premium, you're not getting advertisements. So this show is not an advertisement. I don't have a single sponsor, by the way. I have not taken any sponsors. VA Green says, if I don't have coffee, somebody's dying. I get it. Yeah. Okay, wow, look at that. An hour, 102 minutes. All right, guys. So this has been a great live. I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Keith says, I think the wisdom you gain in a lifestyle like yours makes you seem so much wiser and mature compared to the average person our age. We're pretty close in age. Nice. Thank you, my friend. I feel that way. I've also done a lot of different things. I've also traveled. So it's all about like condensing life experience. A lot of different life experience in a short amount of time can give a certain perspective on things, I feel like. That's why I feel like travel is so important for people. All right. Mom computer, nothing escapes you, says Nate. The other half of we seems to have put you over the top. I was already thriving and whole and felt wonderful, but definitely it's nice. So, okay, guys. The Yeshua says, do you wish you lived in a place with a longer growing season? Not really, actually. I used to think that I did. When I came back from California, I was like, this is terrible. There's 6 months where you can't grow anything. But I have since developed other lifestyle practices. I get deeply into ice bathing and sauna therapy. I've got a wood-fired sauna that I put in the garden during the wintertime. I host classes where we do ice bathing. It's just a whole different thing. I have different things I do. So I actually really appreciate having the winter. We have a great growing season here. So No, I actually don't mind it at all. I love a good harsh winter. I'm built for the winter. I really am. So, okay, Brian, thank you too. I will see you on Monday. Everybody have a good time. So thank you guys so much. If you're watching this after the fact, leave us some love in the comments. If you have video topic ideas, share them either in the comments or in the Viking Discord chat. There's a link in the description. You can get into the Discord. It's turning out to be a really great community there. We can share pictures, and it's you guys giving each other experience and advice. I can comment sometimes, but I got a lot of other things going on. But it's a wonderful thing to share pictures, okay? So I highly recommend doing that. Get into that community. I mean, it's an amazing resource, all right? Because it's people's firsthand experience, and you can ask, hey, can you show me a picture of that? And the people will post pictures of it for you. So it really helps. So the link is in the description, okay? So we will see you guys here. Again, if you do shopping on Amazon, use the link in the description to get into Amazon. All you do is just click on the link to my Amazon storefront, and you can get something in the storefront, that's good, or just while that browser window is open, buy something on Amazon that you normally would buy anyways. It doesn't have to be in my storefront, and I will get the credit for it. So it's better than Amazon keeping all the credit. And I know for sure that many of you guys are doing that now because the revenue from Amazon has increased. So that's really good. That's how we can keep the whole thing free of sponsors and their tentacles and all that kind of stuff. So so that's how we can do it, okay? So just if you shop on Amazon, get into Amazon through the link in the description. Appreciate that. So we will see you guys next time, and I'll see the Thrive Tribe 10:30 a.m. Eastern time on the Thrive Like a Viking channel.